Many thanks for the kind introduction. Buju Anin Minogijigeb. I greet you this morning in my indigenous language of Anishinaabe-Moan. The words translate to "It's a beautiful day," and it surely is. I'm honored to be speaking here today, not only on behalf of significantly impacted constituencies, but also as an Indigenous woman. I humbly feel the weight of being the only speaker in this category and only hope to do it justice. I'm thankful to FAO and the CFS for including voices from the community, and to the CSIPM, which I'm also representing here today, for their tireless work that helped make this possible. Before I continue, please allow me, I must acknowledge the most vulnerable here in the world right now. As we have seen, a forced starvation is occurring in Gaza, as we see men, women, and children emaciated. Their lands have been decimated, all biodiversity now lost. Waters are contaminated, and babies are starving to death. I hope that everyone here and listening can lend their voices to this ongoing atrocity. And thank you for allowing me this moment. I'd also, if you allow me, like to share a little bit about where I come from. It's important to set this context. I am a citizen of an Indigenous nation, Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe. It is the land of 10,000 lakes. We are fishers, small-scale farmers, gatherers of wild rice, hunters, and harvesters of maple syrup. My family stewards 43 acres on our traditional homelands, where we protect the health and biodiversity of the lands and employ mitigation strategies for climate change. However, impacts are increasing every day, and the threats against the world's biodiversity are numerous, and desertification is on the rise. This meeting here today is a step in the right direction. I believe FAO can play a key role in streamlining right-to-food-based initiatives throughout the Rio Convention's COPs and processes. At COP21, during the negotiations for the Paris Agreement, we saw a huge pushback to any mention of human rights, let alone the right to food. After 2 long weeks of intense negotiations in 2015, we ended up only seeing the preamble with very weak language. Should consider human rights and the rights of Indigenous peoples. Not even shall consider, not even binding to consider. And as the chair of this session just shared, it does not mention the right to food anywhere. We do have solutions at our fingertips, but it's crucial that we avoid promoting and investing in false solutions, such as market-based initiatives in the UNFCCC and CBD. Carbon credits will not save the planet. On the contrary, what communities are on the other side of these credits, and how will they be impacted? What communities are being kept off their land in the name of protected areas? These are questions we must consider before creating and implementing these policies and these agreements. Keeping those that have stewarded the lands for generations is not the answer. We need more dialogues and partnerships centered in those communities that are most impacted. We are also currently in the negotiations for the UN Treaty on Plastics Pollution, including the marine environment. That could be on the road to failure. We have one more chance in August at INC 5.2 to uphold and respect human rights, the right to food, the rights of Indigenous peoples, and the rights of Indigenous peoples to address the full life cycle of plastics. I believe they say we eat 1 credit card of plastic per week, so this is definitely a threat to our right to food. And thank you for letting me acknowledge this other body in here today, which I believe may be pulled in the future, if we can find some success here in August. I think it's important that when we're thinking about solutions, that we truly focus on protecting Mother Earth and really focus on our children and Indigenous peoples. When we're looking towards protection and what our responsibilities are, that's to the next 7 generations. We need to be looking that far ahead to ensure that any solutions that we have are truly sustainable. An example of this, Indigenous traditional farming practices offer valuable insights into adapting to climate change and promoting sustainable agriculture. We have developed resilient agricultural systems that are well suited to extreme environments and can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And this has been proven over time. However, this must be tied to land rights for Indigenous peoples, small-scale farmers, and small-scale fishers. In my community, Indigenous food sovereignty is at the center of our policies and practices. However, our food systems are contaminated through no fault of our own. Our fish are filled with mercury, PFAS, and other persistent organic pollutants, pesticides, and chemicals. What good is the right to food if our food is contaminated? Indigenous peoples' knowledge does hold solutions and can help lead the fight against biodiversity loss, land degradation, and climate change. In this regard, it's important that we move away from technology and innovation and back to community-led solutions. A prime example is the current work to amend the Pesticide Code of Conduct and uphold the rights of Indigenous peoples and free, prior, and informed consent as outlined in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I'd like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to Mr. Bao Gengu here, the head of the pesticide unit, and his powerful team, as well as the Right to Food team, who are all working tirelessly to ensure that this happens. FAO has been a leader in this regard, beginning in 2010 when they adopted its policy on Indigenous peoples, affirming the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as the highest international standard in this area and FPIC as a core principle, and recognizing FAO's responsibility to observe and implement the UN DRIP. But unfortunately, we've heard it undermined during negotiations of the CFS resolutions as being merely aspirational, as only a declaration and not a treaty. However, more and more legally binding treaties and conventions are supporting it. Indigenous rights are human rights, and upholding these principles will benefit all people and the planet. I will end with a quote from our youth. The youth from the CSIPM have joined with the Global Indigenous Peoples Caucuses from the Rio Conventions to share key messages, and this is a summary of their asks. The CFS policy tools are people-centered, integrating the voices of the most affected constituencies, such as smallholders, women, young people, and Indigenous peoples. They are also based on human rights, in particular the right to food. The policy recommendations are also evidence-based, supported by reports from the high-level panel of experts. The CFS guidance can promote intersectoral coordination by aligning national climate adaptation policies with food security objectives, promoting agroecology, promoting and supporting agroecology, encouraging sustainable land management to combat degradation. So let's here today commit to take concrete steps towards a toxic-free future for our youth and to protect our people's lands, waters, and food systems in a truly sustainable manner, led from the ground up. Chimigwich in my language is many thanks for this opportunity.